So this kind of rounds up the other two talks that we were engaged in earlier, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A maybe at the end, because I've heard some fantastic things from people in the audience today, and if people want to share that stuff, it's good. But it's incredible that you get the dynamic when I talk about a serial killer and someone goes, "Yeah, I dealt with him." So well done. This little bit here now is it's just going to round things off. So knowledge is power, and it's about spreading the knowledge, and that's what we're all trying to do in effect, because of the trouble that we're in. Shapes and triangles and all sorts of other stuff in the occult, all things that are hidden, are quite important. So we have all the origins of circles and triangles and squares, the laws of four, 7 levels of laws, and the secret symbols can be found everywhere, even in nature. Symbolism will be their downfall. You have to have a supreme spiritual eye to decipher the illusions of fallacies that's been perpetuated in the media. Who said that? Me. History's a lie, an absolute lie. And book 3, I'm going into it, of all wars are bankers' wars. All war is to do with money. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And our known history all over the world is all about making money. And we have this thing in the UK where on Remembrance Sunday we say they sacrificed themselves. They didn't sacrifice themselves. They were sent to the slaughter, because if you didn't go and fight as a man, you were hung. That's not choice. So the way they tie us up in knots is quite confusing. But once you can see this stuff, and I unfortunately can see this stuff all the time, I don't look at the world in the same way that I used to 25, 30 years ago. 3.14. That's where pi comes from. It's the reversal in its nature of the numbers. So when you start breaking these codes and you're starting to see things in a very different way, everything starts to fall into place. Everything starts to make sense, because you're thinking, you're free thinking. You're not, schools teach you what to think, not how to think. And people in this room think for themselves. This room should be completely packed on a Sunday, but it's not. So we are a very select few. So well done for that. You know, those people that said they didn't suffer the intervention, I believe that there's 2 aspects to this. One is intellect, and one is having a spiritual element to your soul. And I think the test that's just happened was a test of one of the 2, or a combination of the 2. And I believe that's what's happened. And we're in a different place now, and we're going to move into that now. But when you do look at stuff and you see things, you've only got to look at the new Twitter logo. It's a Freemason symbol. So, Elon, I don't believe you, mate. I really don't believe you. And some of you obviously have seen some of these signs as well. So you've got your Gmail and you've got your Facebook. And the Google Chrome is an interesting one, because that's the 666. And then you've got adrenochrome, and we could go into that at some point at the end if you want to. The seal of Satan is quite important, because that one is in relation to book 2 when I wrote about demonology. These guys have been mucking around this stuff for a very, very long time. It's a clown world. I hear that term all the time now. This is a clown world. Well, coulrophobia is a worldwide fear of clowns. Years ago, I had a PA, and she had 2 fears. One was a fear of clowns, and the other one was a fear of very short people. And we had a Christmas party, and there were 4 other companies. I'd rented the space with 4 other companies, not just in surveying, but 4 other companies. And one company decided to have a group of 12 that played instruments. But they walked in the room, and they were all very short people, and they were all dressed as clowns. My PA, she was my PA for 10 years. She left the room. She went home. This was a Christmas party. So it affected her on a real serious level. And I was always thinking, why is it a worldwide phenomena of fear of clowns? It's not something that just takes place in one culture. It's everywhere. Now, I'm going to take you on a little journey with the mark of Cain. Now, Adam and Eve, according to that particular book, gave birth to 2 children. One was called Cain, one was called Abel. Cain killed Abel. And as the story goes, some people say, well, it is a holy book, and and it's full of holes. But I'm always happy to read all these holy books, and I've read the Bible about 17 times, the Quran about 11, and the Torah. But the mark of Cain's a really interesting one, because in the Bible it says that God marked Cain so that others can identify him. Now, we've got a problem straight away, because if Adam and Eve were the first 2 humans in creation and gave birth to 2 sons, where are all these other people suddenly appearing from? What's all that about? And in the Bible it says he cursed him with ashen, which meant white skin. Now, I've got this recurring thought that I'm seeing some people that have taken the intervention, and all I'm seeing in some of them is their eyes have become very grey, and their skin is starting to become quite discoloured, i.e. white. So you can see that something's happening within some of these individuals. Not all, but some of them. And I think the clown fear is an inset to our history within these holy books, that they're a different type of human. And I think that fear of clowns stems from that. There's 2 things also I'm finding. I had to fill out a medical form for my insurance, and in the questionnaire it said, are you unvaccinated? Now, is a very negative word. You can be unwell, unhealthy, unhelpful, unwanted. Is not a word to use. But if you take the word free, then you're alcohol free, tobacco free, drug free. So on the form I crossed it out and I put I'm vaccine free. They didn't like it. They really didn't like it. So, but I held my ground and I said, that's the way I want it explained to you as individuals. So they had to actually retype that into the questionnaire just because of me. And then I found out through the hospital, that's what they're putting on all the forms now. Vaccine-free people. So there was a little win.
Can I answer your question?
Go.
Can I answer? You said Adam and Eve had 2 sons.
Yeah.
They also had a daughter. The daughter favoured Abel.
Yep.
So Cain killed Abel.
Yep.
To have relations with the daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, there's problems with the Bible as well, because the King James 5th edition is totally corrupted, because God is a capital G and not Yahweh. If you want to read a real translation of the Bible, you need the Ethiopian Bible. That's the one, because they've still got the Book of Enoch in there and the other 9 books that were destroyed at the fire of Alexandria. Ethiopian Bible.
All the 77 books are omitted from the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the 77 also break down into, they're in specific books, so that reduces down in, it's about 9 if you separate all the stories. But good question, well done. The other thing about this clown thing is red hair. If you look at clowns generally, they used to be funny things, didn't they? They used to, when I was a child, they had big shoes and funny hats and flowers that squirted water at kids and all that sort of stuff. It was quite funny as a child. Now clowns are looked at very well. Clowns now are always viewed on movies and TV as being quite sinister things. Ashen face, red hair, and I'm going to go into that in a second. But you only got to look at movies like It, what the clown actually represents, something quite evil. But then if you look at the word It, break it down, it says IT, not it. That's a word. So, McDonald's clown, yeah. Now, history is a lie. Alexander the Great was a Satanist, and I've documented that within Book 3. The Red Shields of Rothschilds are Satanist inbreds. Now, I don't know if you know about the Rothschilds and some of the parties they have and some of the things they wear and the sigils and signals and things that they and the pictures they stand against within their family parties. Yeah, they're not quite right. Now, the Irish, I don't know if you know this, originally were Iranian in their origin. And I come from an Irish background, so that's upset a few members of the family. But, you know, I always go places that other people aren't willing to go to. And ginger hair in the male line is also a trait of being Iranian. The blue and light colour eyes are also Iranian in origin. So that's quite interesting as well. And because the history that we're told at school is a fabrication, all this stuff becomes a very heated discussion, because we're starting to tread on other people's toes that they don't like to hear what you're saying. Banking is satanic. All wars are bankers' wars. And I don't know if you know this, but the Eastern world collapsed in the 1500s due to the bankers. Now, I can go into Ashkenazi Khazars, which I don't know if many people know about those, but there's a fight going on, and it's called Ukraine. Ukraine used to be occupied by the Ashkenazi Khazars when they pushed out of southern Russia by King Bulan. We never hear any of this history in our history books. And I think what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment is they're getting rid of the population for war, because in Israel their water table is under Gaza, and they are running out of water in Israel. And what's happening is, because a lot of the Ashkenazi Khazars had origins in Ukraine, they're actually emigrating back to Ukraine from Israel. And I think the last stats I looked at a few months ago was something like 110,000 are emigrating from Israel every month. They're actually going in to the Ukraine, and the Ukraine population, 11% of the Ukraine population are dead because of this war. So property is becoming quite cheap because there's plenty of supply and demand. So there's other things afoot going on in this present time. And Israel are under an awful lot of pressure now, because the world is saying enough of this. No, I mean, you've got people now not paying their council tax because of the central fund that the money goes into, and then the government gives it back to the local authority. And people are saying, well, I'm not paying my council tax because I'm not funding an illegal war. I don't want anything to do with killing other entities, and more importantly to me, little ones. I think it's disgraceful. So I'm in a fight at the moment. Well, I'm in another fight at the moment. I'm always in a fight. But I'm in a fight at the moment with my local authority, and I'm also in a fight with the Law Society, because I think it should be called the Legal Society, because law is for common law. The Law Society should be called the Legal Society. So I've got like 5 barristers of theirs fighting me at the moment, because I'm going to change it. You know, another little quote that I created for book 3 was, great men do great things. And I don't mean to leave women out. But great men do great things. But determined men change things. And we've got to change things. So we've got to be determined. We can't half pregnant this thing. We need it to be pregnant or not. And it's up to us. We've got to do the heavy lifting. So I'm not sure if some of you have got time to do these fights, or unlike me, I just never rest. If my eyes are awake, I'm up for a fight. And I'll argue about anything for free. So as we work through, the breeding programs of the royals all over the world are about the red carpet. They're about bloodline. Blood's really important to the royals. And I've had a discussion with a few people out here today, and there's something going on within the royal family. The royal families always used to live to 700 years of age, didn't they? And suddenly we've got 2 royals with cancer. So we've got the king, and we've got Kate Middleton. And they don't look like the same people to me. I don't know what you think, but they look like replacements. Is that the word? So, and I think what's happening is, I think the king is going to go down the route of an intervention, but using natural products, natural stuff, because he's got the Duchy of Cornwall and all the rest of it. And he's going to die because he won't do what Kate's going to do, which is suddenly find an injection that cures cancer. And everyone with accelerated cancers are going to start lining up for that Kool-Aid. And that's their final jump, I think. That's on the way. I don't want to be a man of prediction, so you can throw stones at me if I get it wrong. If I get it right, oh, Gary, you got that. That was lucky. You can't win. So, but I'll always tread where I need to tread. DNA and mitochondria and the nucleus, this is really important. This is to do with 5G. Now, 5G will go through a nucleus, but not mitochondria. And I'm going to pop into that in a while. Radiation only affects that mitochondria, which is under attack. Now, because of their symbolism, the symbolism is becoming so blatant now, it's getting really silly. They're starting to really, they don't care. If people can't see it, but they're putting it out there now in such ridiculous formats. And I got this photo when Biden first got in. What a ridiculous carry on to position people like that. But when you see the symbolism and you see what's going on, it's obvious. But most people would pick up a newspaper, look at that and think, yeah, there's social distancing and some are in chairs and some are around the edges. No, that's not what they're saying. So the symbolism is becoming really obvious now, even for people that are kind of on the cusp. If you can't see this stuff by now, you never will. And obviously you're all informed, so you're on fire with it, you get it. If I had these discussions in a local pub, I think an ambulance would be called, or the police, or both. In the Matrix, it says, take the red pill. Wake up and take the red pill. Take the blue one, you'll go back to sleep. The meat is juicy, and you see the girl in a red dress. But there's a problem here with blues and reds. So, first of all, who owns the world? BlackRock, Vanguard, and our certificates of birth, with the finance that's created from them, all goes through Fidelity. And in my third book, I'm showing how Fidelity used this birth certificate money accumulation against us. And like I said, I've done something with Coutts Bank where, we've got them hook, line and sinker now because we can create our own money. And I'm going into Coutts Bank, as I say, in 2 weeks' time to see what the verdict is. They wouldn't ask me to go into the bank if they thought I was a loony or suffering lunacy. So, so watch this space on that one. Given that they create money out of thin air, well, who says we can't? And it's not money anyway, is it? They're tokens, because I can't take a UK token called money and go to France and spend it, because it's a different casino. If you go to Las Vegas and you're playing cards and you win all your chips, you can't go from the Bellagio to Circus. Different sorts of chips, different sort of tokens. But with gold and silver, yeah, you can go to different countries and trade that, because that's real money. So Coots have got a real problem with me at the moment, because I'm putting all this into it's all in a legal document and they have it. So yeah, it'd be quite nice if we could all create money like the bankers do, like you do when you take out a mortgage, you create the money and then they fractional reserve it. Well, we just do it ourselves. They're doing it, we can do it. So hopefully I'll have some bit of good news for you in a couple of weeks' time. So with Fidelity and what they're doing, because I've exposed them in these documents as well, because what I want to do is sue them if they don't create the promissory notes or the fictitious promissory notes that they create. Because if they want to lock me up for doing it, well, if they've been doing it for so long, they all need to be locked up. So they can't have it both ways. Like I said, I'm always up for a fight. So we know who owns the world, but who runs the world? And it's the Jesuits. They're behind everything. The Jesuits are behind everything. Now, who's behind the Jesuits? That's a whole different discussion. But factually, I can show that the Jesuits, or the Black Popes, I don't even know about Black Pope, White Pope. So the Jesuits are the orchestrators of everything. And they're most of them are of Iranian bloodline, which again is quite an eye-opener for a lot of people. And all universities, I don't know if you know this, but they're run by Jesuit rules. The Jesuits actually dictate universities on the subjects that are available. I mean, when I was at university, people were having degrees in Rafifa basket making. Now, I got a science degree, so I haven't got a BA. It's a BSc. But I just thought to myself, how can you have a degree in making a basket? You know, I get the artistic thing with a BA, because that to me is a very artistic form of something. But to be making baskets, I couldn't get my quite head around that. And then I figured out because the Jesuits are the ones that lead the subject matters that are being taught. 10% of the US Congress are Jesuit trained. And surprisingly, 8% of UK politicians have attended Jesuit schools. And that might not seem a big number. For me, that's a very big number. And if you only got to look at the next general election, 98 Conservative MPs are stepping down. They're realising there's a big problem. And Galloway's caused a huge problem, hasn't he, with Rochdale? Because if you've got Galloway and the Independent taking more, well, Galloway in himself took more votes than Conservative, Labour and Lib Dems put together. And the Independent was pretty much there as well. So you have two left field players coming in, and the government are really getting quite scared. And they should be. Now, there's an agreement called the Secret Agreement of Perola from 1860. And it said this. Again, another Jesuit. Global poison and genocide was the subject matter, and it was biblically salt the earth was the subject, meaning destroy the planet. So we're looking at chemtrails, we're looking at aluminium, we're looking at barium, we're looking at all sorts of stuff that's going on. Who in their right mind would want to destroy Mother Nature? It's insane. But they want the world for themselves. And they believe in the overpopulation thing. If you do the numbers, we're far from overpopulated. There's enough space for everybody. Another one I use is the subject of golf. And the origin of golf is gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. And if you look at golf courses, if we took every single golf course, all the dodgy deals would stop and then we could build houses. Golfers don't seem to like that. But again, I like to be challenging. But within that document, there was this statement. They were deliberating among themselves as to how they could give wings to death so that it could, in a moment, penetrate everywhere, both near and far. Well, there's only one thing that's happened in recent years that would do that everywhere, both near and far. So that's an interesting document for you to find. Let me see if I can go back. I mean, you'll have these slides anyway, won't you? Oh, of course, yeah. So with John. Oh, what have I done? I've broken it. I've done it. I've figured it. Yeah. I should be air traffic control, shouldn't I? Yeah. I said left. Oh, I meant right. Now, radioisotopes, this is quite an interesting subject in itself, and I stumbled across this about 6 months ago, that the radiation pollution now is everywhere. So the mitochondria has been attacked, or as they call it, the God particle, and I don't know if some of you have read my book 2 on the God particle, which is what they're after and what they've succeeded in going after. If you add up the amount of nuclear tests that were done in America, that were 1,500. And then you got Japan, Chernobyl, Fukushima, and all the other problems. And I've got no thyroid. My thyroid doesn't work. And that's because I was in England at the time that that Chernobyl happened. And I think that was how my thyroid failed. I don't take thyroxines or anything like that. I just eat green stuff. Green stuff. It was iodine, is what someone said at the front. So we're under attack in so many different directions. We don't know which way to go, which way to turn. But if we kind of understand some of the elements of why they're attacking us, not that they are attacking, but why they're attacking us, we can suddenly start seeing things. Now, you've got something called red shift and blue shift. Anybody know about that? Okay, this is going to be a good one. Now, it describes the change in frequency of light waves depending on whether an object is moving toward or away from us. And it's the basis of the Big Bang Theory. This is what scientists rely on in terms of understanding the universal creation of the Big Bang Theory. The theory that there was nothing there, and then suddenly there was, which is...
What was there, Jesuit?
What
was there, Jesuit?
Well, you're exactly right. Yeah, it must have been like a monopoly board or something. So, but they base this stuff on it. And how it works is this. You can see the frequency change between the red and the blue. And things that are moving towards us become blue. And because the amount of time it takes for things to get to us, you can measure the speed at which things are coming in. So every week you can measure a thing, and if it's blue, it means it's coming towards us. If it's red, it's moving away. Now, there's something else called the parallax view. If you ever sat on a train and it's going really fast, stuff that's quite close up to the window, just whoosh. But stuff's very different. It's slow in the fields and the sheep and the distances. And that's because this thing's going on. We're having a red and blue frequencies of what we can see, but not physically measure. If you had a laser measurer, fine. But this thing's going on. And I looked at some interesting stats in that, and I've said this in the last presentation to people, I think the sun has changed. The sun is now white. It used to be, when I was a child, orange. It used to be a different colour. And with all this stuff that is generally going on, we need to be aware of this red and blue colour change thing that's happening. And I think the blue is what they're concerned about, which is a close-up of the parallax view, but from a distance. So there's all sorts of mathematics and numbers here. But if things are moving away from you, in terms of frequency, you're not picking it up. If things coming towards you, you're picking it up, and it's getting quicker and quicker because it's getting closer and closer. So there's a frequency change thing happening. And I think this thing is fundamental with the interventions that have been going on. I think it's really important. Why? Radiation affects blue shift, HARP affects blue shift, but G5 carrier wave affects red shift. So if I go back, G5 affects the ones at the top, but not the ones at the bottom. Now I've done it. Sorted. Air traffic control. So with this carrier wave stuff and the colour changes of blue shift and red shift radiation on this Big Bang theory, I think there's something far more deeper going on, and it's to do with the ancient understanding of this, our chakras. Now, if you look at the middle chakra, which is the heart chakra, which is green, that's something that's in a torus. I don't know if you know about the mathematics of a torus. But if you look at the blue at the top, that's the mind before you get into the crown, the real enlightenment of what the ancients used to believe. Whereas the red is at the base. It's the lowest energy level thing. So there's a direct correlation between red shift, blue shift and colours. And you've got to work through the chakras to understand where you're all at. I would assess at the moment that within this room, you are all green and above. Everyone that took the Kool-Aid are green and below. Because the colours changes. And they're after these colour changes. But when I say colour changes, it's frequency. They put the blues in relation to the mathematics behind the frequencies. So with the torus, as it stands, energy is green as well. Within any toral calculation. And they're basically saying that the universe is this shaped as well. That the universe actually is a torus shape. So there's a lot of mathematics actually going on generally that they don't teach in schools. And then I've got another interesting thing going on in regard to flat Earth, because there's a problem in the calculation. And I'm a man of reason and numbers, but there's a problem. In construction, we use something called SMM7, which is standard method and measurement number 7. It's what QSs use, quantity surveyors, who are the sort of money men, who are the mathematic men in construction and materials. When we calculate big material for long bridges, because I used to build a lot of big bridges and all sorts, within SMM7, we don't take an allowance in the material usage for curvature. It doesn't exist within our calculations. There's a problem, a big problem. Now, well, yeah, I mean, it's a discussion that has to be had. And at some point, I knew I would have to visit it. And being a man of numbers and a man of, I have to see it and evidence, it's not me being convinced anymore. It's me now being able to sort of say to people, let's look at the numbers, let's look at the calculations, and I'll be doing that probably the next AV14. So that's going to be a real interesting debate, because the flat earthers can be quite passionate about this stuff. But I've always got to go where others aren't willing to tread, and so be it. That means that if that's part of my next journey, then we're going to have it out. But there is a problem with the numbers. What the real shape of this plane that we're on, I'm trying to calculate out at the moment. But without the proof, people are going to look at me and think, he's really lost it now. But I haven't. Well, I know someone that's just spent millions and millions on an airship, and he's going to Antarctica. Well, he wants me on it because I'm quite good with trigonometry. So yeah, and I'm a bit nervous because yeah, but you know, it has to be done. It has to be done. And this guy's he spent well over 10 million, but it's nearly completed. It's nearly ready to go. So so that will be an interesting one, probably the early part of next year. And if I can get access, and well, even to the point of being on it, yeah, that'll be an interesting one to be live streaming. But we're going to go there. We're going to find out. So that's happening as well. So there's lots of exciting things happening, but within the problems that we're suffering, and the problems with, obviously now DNA is the target. DNA is the thing that they want, and they've got the DNA now from children. They can work out your history. They can work out whether you've had an intervention or not from your sweat, from a fingerprint. So now you can see why I'm pulling all this together at the end of the 3 chats with you, that we need to now really start upping our game. We really need to start fighting back. It's time. We can't rest anymore. We've got to be full on. And thankfully, a lot more people are waking up too. So a lot of people are realising there's been a real issue and a problem, and our numbers are growing daily, weekly, monthly. And I think that's the reason for they're going to have this cancer curing jab. They're in DEFCON 4. For them, it's over. But now we know who they are. They're in the room. We know what they're all about. And yeah, I think book 3. I might get sued for book 3. But hey, money doesn't exist. Or we'll have plenty of it from Coots. So yeah, keep an eye on this space. I'll be talking a lot more about some of this stuff again at AV14. I hope you can all come along to it. And like everything with what I do, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your care. And I thank you for your courtesy. I'm Gary. I'm just a builder. Have a good day.